Hey guys, Dave here from Kansas City. I'm going to recap what happened on Wednesday, the first official day of the conference. Um, First thing in the morning, I went to an interest workshop entitled "The Engaged Singer: Ways to Create Expressive Performance," and this was given by a guy named Daniel Gutierrez, who teaches middle school uh, choirs. So most of the things that he was talking about had that kind of flavor to it, but there was plenty to take from it. So uh, he was basically introducing movement into the rehearsal technique to get singers to express what they were singing through movement of the body. And one of the things that he did that I think really I want to try right away is that he had the singers conduct the piece while they were singing it, and so we all tried to do this, and since we're all conductors, that came pretty naturally. But the point was not to do traditional conducting patterns, which most amateur singers anyway probably don't know all that well, or they maybe know how to watch it, but they don't know how to do it. So just to step away from any kind of preconceived like what a conductor is supposed to do, and just conduct the piece through movement that you think expresses what you're singing. And it was just amazing how the sounds changed when we did that. So I'm going to try that, I think. And then I rushed off to a workshop that would happen right after that. Luckily, it was just across the hall, called, believe it or not, Reimagining the Multi-Generational Church Choral Program. So this was given by a guy named Jonathan Rogers, who has a big Baptist church in Birmingham, Alabama. So it couldn't have been farther from the whole community at St. Francis as far as worship style and beliefs, the Christian niche that they're in, whatever, than that. But yet there was, I felt, an affinity with him, and he was saying some of the same things that I've been experiencing at St. Francis, and he made the distinction between multi-generational and intergenerational. So his program is a multi-generational one in that it's the old, sort of the old system that I kind of wanted to step away from, where you have a children's choir and a youth choir and an adult choir. But he said that once a month he smushes them all together to have an intergenerational choir sing at the service, and people really respond to it. And he's found that it's been very successful, and they kind of want him to do it every week, but for him, because he's in a large church, it's kind of a big undertaking. But it's just a really attractive thing. And he didn't really talk much about the liturgical end of things or the tradition that liturgical churches have of an intergenerational choir in the whole chorister, boy choir, men's choir, cathedral choir kind of thing, which now most cathedrals include women and girls, so which is what I wanted to do. But there was still plenty to take away from this, and he got into a lot of things about, he's read a lot about statistics on how church attendance is going down and what's attractive. There's been studies about what people find attractive about a church or not, and he had 6 things that your church doesn't want to do if they want to attract an under 50 crowd. So and one of them I found interesting was to adopt a contemporary worship service. They absolutely do not do that. They said that is not something that's attractive to younger people. According to these the research that's been done, this is a sociological thing where they go out and ask people of that age what they want when they go to church. What are they looking for? And what they're really looking for, and it's no surprise, is community. They want a community They don't necessarily need to be with people just like them, but they want a community where they feel like they belong, you know. And I think choir is a place where that needs to happen for it to be any kind of a choir. And as a, you know, it can be an outreach kind of thing, you know. People who like music and maybe wouldn't mind going to church, or who are looking for a church and want to do music. You know, if you have a strong choir with a community going on within that group, you know, sort of a small group within the larger group of the whole congregation, I think it's a really strong thing to have. One of the other things they said, and that we're doing at St. Francis, is that it's very attractive if a church is ministering in its service in some way, like, and so I immediately thought of our food program, you know. So that's the kind of thing that younger folks are looking for. So then, without lunch, we trotted right over to the Kaufman Center to get busy listening to some great choirs. Luckily, I packed a sandwich because I knew that was going to happen. There was this choir, the Salem, South Salem High School Symphonic Choir, and they're from Oregon. And their director, William McLean, is a St. Olaf grad and was heavily influenced by Anton Armstrong, who is the director of the St. Olaf Choir, who's an amazing person, by the way. And so their program was great, and they did this world premiere by a guy named Joshua Rist, who I'd never heard of, who actually accompanied on the piano for the piece. It was an amazing piece. Just in some ways very simple, and yet using these building blocks of musical sounds that we all know, but arranging them in different ways and mushing them together with each other so that it created these textures. And it was an emotional piece too. I was just really, really impressed with it. Later, the next group to sing was the University of Missouri Singers, and on their second piece, I looked down to see who the composer was, and I did a double take because the composer was Reiko Fruting, who had been a student tenor in my choir when I was conducting at Columbia University, and you know, he was a grad student at Manhattan School of Music at the time, and so they're singing his piece, and it's published by Schott, which is a major publisher in Germany, and so he's clearly done well for him. It was a beautiful piece, so it's just nice to make that connection and to see that the students that were, you know, that I was in a sense mentoring, went on to be very successful. So that was kind of a lovely shock. And then after that was the Lorelei Ensemble, and these are 8 women, you know, all professional singers. This is a professional group, and the conductor Beth Wilder is a Harvard grad, and she got interested in the equal part music of Guillaume Dufay, who is a late 14th, early 15th century composer, whose music is amazing, but almost never gets done because it's really, 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 really hard. It just doesn't fit the modern ear at all, and it even for, I think, for the time period it was written in, it was pretty, you know, ivory tower stuff. It's fascinating music, and beautiful, and even you know, emotional, if you can get to the point in the score where you can let go of the technical difficulties of having to sing it, you know, and which they did, you know, which is an impressive feat, and so that was a treat to hear them sing. So then we took a little break, and I got a little more sandwich in, and then we went right back in and heard some more choirs. And the first choir we heard was the Southwest Junior High School Men's Choir, Select Men's Choir. So these guys were from Springfield, Arkansas. They wore chinos, a white shirt, and a tie with the school colors, and they were just, how could you not love them? They were adorable, you know. And I don't know, there were like 75 of them, and I just prayed for this conductor, because like he works with 75 junior high school boys every day. You know, like, oh my gosh. But you know, some people are built to do that. I'm not one of them. But when they started singing, we were all just like, whoa, because they started with a unison sound, a piece that had a melody that was unison a cappella for several measures. And it was the most gorgeous sound. And if you know anything about the male voice, or if you had one at one point, you know, when your voice breaks, when you're just entering junior high school, you know, you have, you're kind of the ugly duckling, because you don't have much of a voice anymore. I remember for myself, I had a 6-note range, you know, it was just very, very limited. So to have this choir produce that sound was doubly amazing. And then they sang in parts. They sang the Navy hymn in parts. Their selections were rather conservative, as you would expect from Arkansas, I guess. But I kind of like that, and it sort of fit them. They sang a beautiful arrangement of America the Beautiful, and then after that they sang a Kenyan a cappella with drums kind of thing that was it was a praise song, and they they're very energetic, you know. So it was an energetic song, and they had movement that went with it, and you know, they just ended up at the front of the stage, and at one point, you know, the chorus cuts off, and then they would just like gave this shout, you know, and then the drum hit its final beat, and that was the end, you know, and we all just stood on our feet. It was amazing. There were several other choirs that sang. I don't know if I'm going to get into all of that, but then the last choir that sang in that set was the Baylor University Men's Choir. This is 100 guys who go to Baylor. It's a Baptist college in Texas, and so their selections tended to veer in that direction. It was pretty much all religious music, but low Protestant religious music, where everything is black and white, and I'm fighting the good fight and all of that, which is not really all that attractive to me, but you know, it's one branch of spirituality. But the first piece that they sang is by a guy named Kim Andre Aronsen. He's a Norwegian composer, and it's kind of a classic choral piece now. It's called When He Was Silent. The St. Olaf's Choir does it quite a bit. And I've never really liked it because it's very sort of hard on sleeve, and the music has always struck me as manipulative, I guess. And the text is simple, but it was written by someone who's being in a Nazi concentration camp, presumably died in the concentration camp. But it's sort of a very simple prayer. It says, I believe in the sun even when it's not shining, and I believe in God even when he is silent. So they sang this, but they did, you know, it's an SATB, you know, a mixed choir score, but he had made a TTBB, men-only arrangement of it. It's an a cappella piece, and it just totally transformed the piece. Plus, they had the essence of it emotionally, and it was a whole new world for me. I mean, the piece suddenly came off the page, and it didn't sound hokey anymore, and I was in tears at the end of it. So, and then I noticed, after that first piece was over, I looked up in the corner, and what was it? The Southwest Junior High School Select Men's Choir had quietly filtered in to the upper balcony, and they were watching the Baylor men's chorus. So these junior high school boys were watching these college guys perform, and you could tell how it was affecting them. And it was just a really great moment. So yeah. And then what did I do after that? Oh, I went to dinner with the Lutheran Church musicians contingent that's here at the conference. So I met several people all of whom will be at the conference in Portland, and I sat next to the president of the American Lutheran Church Musicians Association, and we really hit it off, and it was just lovely, to sort of meet all these people, so that was a great end to a day. And after that dinner, I was wiped, even though there was more stuff to do. I mean, there's way more stuff than you could ever do. You would never eat or sleep if you went to everything that they offer. So I went back up to my room at that point and crashed. It was a great day.